Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing well, feeling great, having a nice one out there. Whatever the weather is doing, I hope that it's doing well for you. Today, we're returning back to a little Bach. We're going to listen to Toccata and Fugue in F major, BWV 540 is the piece that we're going to be listening to today. Looking for the release year. I'm searching. I don't see it immediately. I see that it says potentially dating from the composer's time in Weimar or in Leipzig, but I'm not quite exactly seeing the year. It says it was written perhaps around 1713, but it seems that the year exactly is up in the air quite a bit. So we're listening to this because this was suggested, and this was sponsored as well by Sylvain. Sylvain, thank you so much for the recommendation. I appreciate the support. And I also see that this had been recommended a few years ago, actually, from Ball Jean as well. So that's the intro. Without further ado, let us go ahead and dive into it. We're going to be listening to the piece as performed by Marie-Claire Alain. Here we go. That sounds like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Only Way. It's like how it starts off. Other way around. Oh, it just completely stopped. Sorry. ELP must have taken that portion and used it for the beginning. I like how it acts as this intro, but repeating a little bit more added each time. Feels like. Love how it goes back and raises itself back into those depths. It's lovely. That's a gorgeous section right here. what Dracula plays before he goes to sleep. Love those deeper notes behind it all. It's so cool how the melodies override and overtake one another in this section. And back to this main melody. Nice return to this. Again. Interesting. So that's the toccata part. Quite sure. that sounds more enchanting. So deep. I like those brief near pauses. It cuts attention. That undermelody, there's depth. This piece captures a lot of different emotions in a relative short amount of time, which I think is really impressive. And it's really cool to kind of dive into Bach a little bit more, as I've been mulling over other pieces of music by him and how to approach them. Okay, there's going to be a decent amount of technical things in here, which I'm not going to understand the technical side of things, but I can at least speak to the music and how it makes me feel, and that's how I always approach. So the first half of this, I'm assuming that is the toccata, the first 8 or so minutes. And Sylvain, you had mentioned that is what would be considered the toccata part. In there, it decidedly sounds to me a lot more sinister. There's something like dark and looming and mysterious over the music. And it kind of has this wonderful enveloping nature around the listener, around me, around you. Like, this is just what I'm hearing when I'm listening to it. And it may sound silly, but it's the kind of sound that I would expect Dracula to be playing, while he's in his castle, whether he's going to sleep before sunrise or rising up to loosen the fingers a little bit before sunset. You know, like this is just the type of music that it sounds like. There's a something of a slight sinister nature to it. Now, that of course could be due to the types of keys, and if I remember correctly, major scale sounds a little bit more happy and positive. Minor does not. Sounds a little more dark and ominous. Could be wrong, of course, and you can play around with these. But I really love the way that that's played. The fingering on top of the organ is like just brilliant. The way that the repeated motifs surround themselves and encircle one another, and start and repeats. You get a lot of different motifs that come back, which is really cool to hear. It acts as this instrumental chorus to the music, which I love. This gives me something to grasp onto and to almost look forward to, these repeated lines that come back. Then the foot pedals of the organ are such a wonderful accompaniment to the music. Naturally, it's usually there and being performed, but I love the depth that rings out from that. And in this piece, it is nonetheless just as rib shaking and vibrating when you can feel those tones come up from under us, like beneath our feet. I have never been in an earthquake, but I imagine that this is somewhat, in a musical sense, what it feels like when you feel that rumbling underneath. And yet it's a vibration that is in some capacity a little disturbing, and I don't mean like in a bad way. I mean like it disturbs the environment, but it's a pleasurable disturbance, the way that, of course, those notes come through, almost like a bass, of course, and it just mixes so well with what's happening on top of this proverbial wave of music that's happening. Then as you move into the second part, the fugue, to me it kind of shifts a little bit, not completely, but a little bit, and the imagery that it gives me is so royal. It sounds like music that is accompanying a bunch of royals and debutantes and the high society. They're dressed for a ball of some sort, a gala, and they're coming down the grand staircase, and they're waltzing and they're dancing. You can see them in their high esteemed clothes and such. There's a fly around me. I'm sorry. Anyways, and like but it's interesting because in my mind, the way that I hear it, it plays in a near similar fashion as the first part. And yet, because of the change in direction of the way that the notation is handled and some of the rhythms, some of the way that the fingering is happening, it just changes into something of a more upbeat and maybe upbeat is not the right exact word, but of a happier, serotonin-filled nature. And I think it's really interesting, that difference between that. Now, Sylvain helped me out a little bit and sent me an email, kind of helped me define what a fugue is. It's a composition, I'm reading directly the message, where the theme, the subject, is layered one voice after the other. The exposition, the characteristic part, often accompanied by a secondary contrasting theme, contrasubject, which are then developed to exhaust all the possible combinations, often culminating to a stretto where the subject are laid close on top of each other. So, okay, I'm just being 100% honest. Like, technical things in music are hard for me to understand. This is my limit. I'm just being honest with myself. So, sometimes I need like a explain like I'm five, almost kind of explanation. Now, Sylvain, you did a great thing for me. You said that's the first part of On Reflection from Gentle Giant is a fugue. So let's re-listen super quickly to the very beginning of On Reflection from Gentle Giant, just to get that.
In my way did I use you? Do you think I really abused you? On reflection now, it doesn't matter. How can you say I made you?
Okay. See, to me this makes sense.
It's my act as my calling. I stand.
Like, so vocally they're doing a fugue there, from what I'm understanding, unless, something I'm missing. But it's not exactly, but in my childlike mind, when it comes to this stuff, it almost sounds like it's a sort of singing in the round. A sort of, like a split off, a divergence of that similar concept. Now, the question I have, and we may answer it, is what's the difference between toccata and fugue? Because the first part is called toccata, but that's what I hear is, I guess, what is technically the fugue. When I'm listening to the first part, which is Toccata, my mind's saying, oh, that sounds like the fugue. But that's not. So what am I missing? We'll work through it together. But first, let's read a little bit, huh? It's an organ work written by Bach, of course, as we mentioned. No firm date can be established for the composition, and it has even been conjectured that the two parts were composed separately, with the toccata being a potentially more mature piece. Williams, however, describes that the differing effect of the two parts does not pose any problem to the hypothesis that the whole work was composed at the same period. This conception of complementary movements was even a favorite of Bach's, and the dramatic nature of the toccata, as contrasted to the counterpoint of the fugue, should, as Peter Williams writes, not be misunderstood as mere discrepancy. Because of the range of the pedal parts, the toccata may have been written for performance around 1713, with its pedal going up to F. Okay, so of course we have the toccata starts with the large linear canon, first 6 bars over the pedal point in F major. I'm not going over all this. It's just science and chemistry to me in a music way. Pedal solos cover 60 measures. I mean, he's pedaling in there. Let's see. The toccata as a prelude is proportionally the largest of all Bach's works in the format of prelude fugue. So it combines both together. It's often treated as a showpiece with the ensuing fugue omitted. The toccata's rhythmic signature suggests a passipide or musette, although the large scale of the movement does not support these characterizations. Okay, we're moving down. Onto fugue. The first subject of the fugue is chromatic and ornamental. The second subject has many modulation shifts. The fugue is Bach's only thoroughgoing double fugue, where two subjects are exposed in separate sections and then combined. Like one starts in point A, one starts in point B. They both work towards point C. Is that where my mind goes? They come together. These two divergent parallels begin to harmonize and become singular into an extent. Both represent two diverse aspects of Italian influence, the motoric rhythms and sequential passage work of the toccata, and the traditional alla breve counterpoint of the fugue, with its chromaticism, harmonic suspensions, and uninterrupted succession of subjects and answered. Okay. Give me the difference between a fugue and toccata. Okay, we're Googling, people. A toccata is a free-form virtuistic, oh my gosh, I can't read. Keyboard piece designed to showcase technical speed and flair, often featuring rapid runs and dramatic chords. A fugue is a highly structured contrapuntal composition where a single theme is introduced by one voice and then imitated. We're putting this into our mind. So I'm going back now. Where's 540? There's 540. There's definitely speed to this, even as it slows down in dramatic areas, but it's very fast. Okay, and also I totally forgot to mention the beginning of this. I mentioned during the track, "The Only Way" from ELP, right? ELP. I'm pulling it up here. "The Only Way." Listen to the very beginning. There you go. And then listen to ELP. I don't have my clip, but ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Please clap.
Okay. So then if I go to the fugue, keeping in mind that fugue is a highly structured contrapuntal composition where a single theme is introduced by one voice and imitated. Okay, I heard the layering in there. There's your other voice, right? Like am I getting it? I'm really wanting to understand. So I think I'm kind of on it. Tell me, grade me on a scale of 1 to 10 from what I've said and from what you guys have said and from the information that you have provided and that you, Sylvain, have provided. On a scale of 1 to 10, how does it sound like I'm getting it? Because I'm trying. It's enjoyable though. The piece was good. The piece was a good piece of music to listen to. It gave me two different emotions, and I liked both of them. I'm all emotion, and I am not technical, but I'm trying to get a little bit of it, not only to understand the music, but just as a little bit of personal growth, you know? Anyways, let me know what you guys thought, of course, in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed the music. As always, I appreciate you all joining me here. Even sometimes as I stutter my way through my own miseducation, I'm trying to educate myself at least a little bit. And I'm having a good time. Hopefully you are as well. Thank you so much for being here, Sylvain. Thank you so much for the suggestion, for the support. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.